Hello, everybody, again, and welcome to our monthly live stream. I have such an amazing guest, and I want to make sure we have enough time to speak to somebody I admire so much, Chidi Lemchi. He is what they call a straight shooter, a man of God, and somebody that is so brilliant. But as usual, we are going to start with a brief intro to Shuzia. If this is the first time you're coming into the universe, I'm just going to share a little bit about what we do and who we are. So if you can encourage me, especially after the weird start I had, with a couple of really nice comments and emojis, that would be amazing. Maybe you can start by saying where you're dialing in from. So people always ask, the first question people ask me is, how do you pronounce Shuzia? Whether it's Shuzia, and I said, look, so long as you type shuzia.com on your browser, I'm fine. But the pronunciation is Shuzia, and we are the ultimate Christian creators platform, and we're the dwelling place of the tribes of Shuzia. So we have different tribes in Shuzia. This is a quote we like to say a lot. I have to tell someone about Jesus and Shuzia every day. And like I said, welcome to the Shuzia universe if this is your first time. The question then is, what makes up the Shuzia universe? And we have various platforms in Shuzia, and I'll just share very briefly on them. The first one is shuzia.com. And that is where we have every single thing that's in Shuzia. You can go there, you can read some amazing books, listen to sermons, music, and read magazines. Then we have I Testify. Guys, if you can, please download the I Testify app. Just go to either your Android, your Play Store or your iStore and type in I Testify app. It's a great social platform that allows you to share testimonies and prayers and allow Christians to engage with you. So please do that. And then send us any feedback you have on the app at support@shuzia.com. And we have Get Jesus. Get Jesus is our evangelism platform. If you go to shuzia.com and you click on Get Jesus in the menu, it will take you to a page that allows you to go step by step and understand how to go about giving your life or starting to live your life for Jesus. And then the third platform we have is Shuzia Writers. Shuzia Writers is a group of Christian writers. We're on WhatsApp and on Facebook. So if you want to connect, just let us know. We have weekly challenges. The Shuzia Writers publish our weekly magazine. And then we have ShuziaTV. That is our YouTube channel, and that's what's hosting our live stream today. So the topic of this live stream is Unattached, and the topic for our magazine for this month is Unattached as well. So our magazine launches tomorrow. Please don't miss it. It has so many great articles. We're not only talking about relationships, which is what Christians like to think whenever they think of single people. And that's the reason we didn't even call this live stream Singles. We talk about politics. We're talking about dating, why some first dates are really horrible, how to avoid it, questions to ask. We talk about career, and we talk about some things that are happening in Christianity. So look out on our social media pages. Now, without further ado, I want to introduce my amazing guest. And for those of you that have done our live stream before, you know that the intro is usually longer than 3 minutes, but I really want to give enough time to Mr. Chidi Lemchi. And if we could just have his brief bio so I could go through it. And I was today years old when I found out that his middle name was Henry. So when I see him in real life, I'm going to be calling him Henry from now on. But Chidi Henry Lemchi, he has over 9 years experience in business development, marketing, research analysis. He's worked with global brands, diverse industries like information technology, etc. and so forth. He's also great at business coaching and research. He's trained both locally and internationally. And prior to joining Business Day Limited, he was the head of business development of Augusta & Co. He has a bachelor's of science degree in sociology, and he was recently admitted into Lagos Business School. He's an author. He's written a book called Lessons Daddy Gary Taught Me, and he's in the process of writing his second book. We also are part of a premarital counseling group. So one of the things I love about him is the fact that he is so frank in his questions. So let's welcome Mr. Chidi Lemchi. Virtual caps, everyone. Yay!
Good evening, Mark. Good evening, Napsi.
Yes, you see, it was easy. So normally for our live streams, we do a talk we allow you to talk for a few minutes and we take questions. But we had so many questions coming in for the live stream. We just decided to go straight into the question and answer, if you're comfortable with that.
Yes, that's fine. Let's we can start that way. That's fine.
Okay, so but before we start, maybe you can share a bit about how you started even counseling, because it's not only single people that you counsel, coach, and mentor. It's married couples, people that are about to get married. If you can just share a bit of your journey of how you got to the stage where now every single person wants to hear from Brother Chidi before they make that step.
Okay, so a very quick talk or quick speech as to why I decided to go into relationships. So I had a very terrible upbringing in terms of parenting and from a family. My parents didn't have the best of marriage relationship. So because of that, while I was growing up, I vowed that my marriage would be a testimony, would be a shining example of how a marriage should look like. And the good thing is, I got saved quite early. I got saved at the age of 16, 20th June 1996. So when I got saved, it helped me to start reading books, listening to seminars, attending meetings on relationships, talking with people, asking questions, and all that. Then I found out that, look, the greatest challenge of society is family. So if you get the family right, you get the society right. If you get family right, you get politics right. If you get family right, you get the church right. Because our pastors come from families, people who come to churches come from different families. Our politicians are from families. So because of that, I began to develop myself in that aspect. And then if I knew what was happening, I started talking to people on relationships, and people started trooping to me to ask questions about how to know God's way for their life, for who they should get married to, for marriage, and all that. And of course, couples also started coming to me, discussing their challenges and all that. And I found I could profile solutions to all that. And I've been doing this since 1999, and so far so good. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. That's a minute, man. That's almost over 20 years. Yeah, it's been a while. You'll have stories for us today. Oh, I can't wait.
Sometimes I'm actually afraid of sharing stories, because some of the stories are Nollywood stories. People may not believe them.
No, honestly, even me, and I've not been in this ministry as long as you. I've only been like for 6 years, and for the first few stories, I was like, wow, this world is deep. So strangely enough, one of the questions that came through was around polygamy. So for anybody tuning in from Nigeria, that's a hot topic on Twitter these days. If you're outside the country, we had a discourse both in Christendom and outside Christianity where people started asking about polygamy, and they were saying that, is the Bible outdated, or is it the fact that the Bible condoned polygamy because we had so many great men in the Old Testament that had many wives? So why is it now in Christianity we're saying one man, one wife? What is so wrong about it? So I know that you've shared that experience with me before. So I wanted to hear a hot take from you. What you're thinking about this topic that's raging on Twitter.
Okay, so you see, I'm even surprised that Christians are discussing issues of polygamy and asking themselves, is it a sin? Is not a sin? I'm shocked. I'm taken aback, because it speaks volumes about the quality of Christianity we have today, and also the lack of sound teaching of the Bible among believers today. It's quite unfortunate. Now we need to ask ourselves, when was the first time the issue of polygamy came up in the Bible? The first time polygamy was mentioned in the Bible was in Genesis chapter 4. And it had to do with a vagabond. Somebody God himself called a vagabond. That was the first time polygamy was mentioned in the Bible. If you remember the story of Cain and Abel, and God sending him out, and Cain going out to, that was at least 4-5 generations after the death of his brother, that we now started hearing about Cain being married to a second wife. You get? So people need to ask themselves, where is the origin? What is the origin of polygamy? The origin of polygamy is not from God. God is not the originator of polygamy. The man who originated polygamy is a murderer, a vagabond. I mean, I didn't call him that. That's what the Bible described Cain as.
Yes.
The original intent, the original idea of marriage by God is one man, one wife. Look, if God had intention of polygamy, what he would have done is to create Adam, then add to Eve, he will include Mary, Maria, and somebody else. I don't go see somebody else. But God didn't
Because
do
if
that.
you're on the call, I'm not calling you out.
So the whole idea of polygamy has nothing to do with God. Now, when people try to use, but there were kings, great men, God, anointed of God, who had who married more than one wife. For goodness sake, Samson was anointed of God, but Samson was busy sleeping with prostitutes. So are we going to say because Samson is anointed of God and was sleeping with prostitutes, it's therefore okay for believers today to also sleep around with prostitutes, even though they have the anointing of God upon their lives? You get the point? So these are the issues. Christians need to wake up. It's unfortunate that we're not even seeing that marriages are under severe attack by the enemy. And we are busy discussing, is polygamy sin? Is it not a sin? After all, for goodness sake, there are two wills of God. There's what we call the perfect will of God and the permissive will of God. The permissive will of God is not the perfect will of God. So somebody can be walking in the permissive will of God and think he's in alignment with the plans and purposes of God for his life, but the person is not in alignment.
Exactly.
And then outsiders will be looking at the person and then be envious of that person. But we need to go back to the Bible. Even Jesus spoke about monogamy as God's idea of marriage. So we need to understand that fact. When we understand that fact, it becomes easy to deal with some of the. I'm amazed that Christians are engulfed in asking themselves, look, any Christian saying, well, but it doesn't matter, people can marry more than one wife. That person has a problem with self-control issue. I mean, has an issue with self-control. And if you check, that person is also struggling in the area of sexual immorality. That is the honest truth. Do you know in Nigeria, adultery is illegal. In Abuja, you can actually be jailed for adultery. Bigamy, of course, we all know bigamy is illegal. You can actually be jailed.
You say adultery is a crime?
Yes. Adultery is illegal. You can go to prison for adultery. Yes.
Are you serious? I did not know this. No. This is brand new to me.
You can check the law. You can in Abuja. Wow. You can go for adultery. Yes.
Wow.
So what are we talking about? We need the constitution of God for believers is the Bible, and the Bible should guide our daily existence. Now let's look at the people who even married, who had more than one wife. So let's look at, for example, Abraham. Abraham took Hagar, not because it is God's will. So if you read the Bible, you will notice that in Genesis chapter 17, when God appeared before Abraham and said, look, Abraham, I'm the Lord thy God, walk thee before me, and be perfect and all that, and they entered into a covenant. For 13 years, God was silent on Abraham. Go and read that particular place. God didn't speak to Abraham for a very long time. Until God appeared in Genesis chapter 17 and began to talk to him, and then now God entered a covenant. But by then, Abraham had started a relationship with Hagar. Let's look at Jacob. How did Jacob get involved in polygamy? Of course, Jacob's original intention was Rachel, one wife, but his uncle Laban deceived him into Leah. And of course, when he eventually married Leah and married Rachel, both of them began to play games with a man anointed by God by sending their house helps to him. Let's go a little further to the man called Solomon that people today use as an excuse. How did Solomon get involved in having 300 wives, 700 concubines? Those days, when you go, and there are some pastors in Nigeria today that also practice, as recently as today, such practices are also there. Now, in those days, kings of different countries, what they do is that when you pay them a visit, they give you a wife as a gift, or give you a girl as a gift. So that was how Solomon was accumulating all those women in his life. You get? And if you remember, the Bible also mentioned that they turned his heart away from the Lord his God. You get? So we need to be very careful what we are trying to promote here, or what we are trying to argue, and all that. We need to be very careful.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I always say it. I say that moment in time in the Garden of Eden is really the perfect will of God. The desire for constant fellowship, for man to work, for man to provide, for a woman not to be seen as under, but as a partner. Like that, what God created there was really perfect. But to this point, you said, this is the reason why a lot of single people say that when they have seen somebody that they want to marry, if their pastor tells them is the wrong person, they will listen, even though in their hearts they feel it's the right person, because they're so afraid of what they will meet inside marriage. So one of the questions we have is, if I want to marry somebody, but my pastor has said no, has prayed and said that this is not the one for me, what should I do? Yes.
I want to state this categorically, and I want to be on record. No pastor has a right to tell anybody whom to get married to, because that pastor is not going to live with you in that marriage. When you now begin to have friction with the person, of course there will be arguments, there will be friction, there will be quarrel, and the whole idea is you are trying to understand yourselves. Now, when all those things begin, that pastor will not be living with you. The Bible didn't say.
Chidi, where does counsel come in now? Because some people go for counsel, from friends, from family, from your partner.
So this is where counsel comes in. When you go to, say, a pastor to tell the pastor, look, I have so person who wants to get married to me. The responsibility of that pastor is not to tell you, no, don't marry him. This is who you should marry. It's not, no. The responsibility of that pastor is to ask you certain questions to make sure that brother or that sister or that person meets the criteria of God for marriage. So one of those questions is, God says, thou shalt not be unequally yoked together with unbelievers. So the question that pastor should be asking is that person born again? The next question the pastor should be asking is, what does he do for a living? Because if you are not working, you don't have a right to get married. Because the first thing God gave to Adam before he gave him Eve is a job. Genesis chapter 2 verse 15 clearly states that God, after he finished creating Adam, put him in the garden to tend and to keep it, before God now began to talk about giving him someone that would help him. So that is the second question. The third question the pastor should ask is, what are the character? What's the character of this person? Is the person hot-tempered? Is the person when you put person under pressure? How does he or she react? How does he or she talk? What kind of human being is this person? That is the responsibility of that pastor. And then the pastor can now begin to say, okay, look out for certain clues. For example, if I have a daughter who interestingly is right here in front of me, she's waving.
I'm waving back at her.
If tomorrow she brings someone to me that says, Daddy, this is the person I want to spend the rest of my life with, my first what I'll be telling her, one of the clues I'll be telling her is, watch how he drives. How he drives will tell you his temperament and how he will also treat you at home. If he's busy shouting at people, get away, you idiot, park the car, come down to come and fight, he's an abuser. He's going to abuse you physically by the time you get married to that person. So these are some of the clues that pastor should be looking at and be asking this person. And once in a while, pick up your phone, call. How is that relationship going? Have you seen these clues? how is his management of finance, how is his management of his temperament. When you people argue, how does he take it? Do you people settle easily? Do you go on for weeks without talking to each other? Those are basically what the responsibility of it. Now, when those clues, when those red flags begin to pop up, that is when that pastor will now come in and say, hey, you better pause this relationship, give it time.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Now, you've mentioned a lot of things. You talked about character, you talked about values, talked about spiritual foundation. But you and I have been involved in a case where all these things were in place, but to the man, the girl was not physically attractive. So sometimes you play a lot, and this is one of the questions that we also got. The person is perfect in terms of the values and the character, but you're not physically attracted. Does that make me a carnal Christian if I also want to feel that physical attraction?
No, it doesn't make you a carnal Christian. As a matter of fact, I have a principle which I'm sure you've heard me say this several times. Marriage is 100% physical and 100% carnal or spiritual. Sorry, 100% spiritual and 100% physical. Don't get married to somebody that you are not, first of all, physically attracted to. Don't get married to somebody you are not attracted to. For example, if you like them big and then you see one, somebody that is not on the big side, or for some reason, and you now decide to start companying with that person, I dare you are going to cheat in that marriage. If you end up getting married to that person, you are going to cheat, and you will cheat with your original spec. So it doesn't make you carnal when you say, oh, that sister is good, that brother is good, but I'm not physically attracted to him or her. There has to be physical attraction. There has to be physical attraction. One of the reasons why many couples, for example, have issues with sex in marriage is because of lack of physical attraction. Sometimes it's because they are no longer physically attracted to each other. Either the guy has grown pot belly, and the lady has now her body parts are no longer the same. So for some reason, their attraction is gone. So there has to be physical attraction. And let me tell us, the Bible says watch and pray. Why would the Bible say watch and pray if your eyes are not important? Your eyes are the window to your soul. So it's important for you to open your eyes and see. If the person checks out, good, but physical attraction is also very, very important in marriage.
Okay. So physical attraction is very important. So I have met him, for example. I am physically attracted. He's physically attracted to me. How do we keep ourselves pure? Because some Christians believe that there is no way to test if there is sexual compatibility unless you have sex before marriage. Yes. They'll say, how do I test it? How do I know she's fertile? How do I know he's potent? How do I know he can get the job done? So how do you keep the purity? Yeah. How do you keep yourselves pure? And is the Bible even being old-fashioned in believing that you can stay pure while you're dating if you are physically attracted to each other?
Okay, so good question. Now, sex, the original design of sex is not to be discovered. It's not to you're not supposed to have sex before marriage, because the idea of sex is to be discovered in marriage. Now, I usually tell people when people come to me, oh, I gave my heart to this guy and suddenly he broke my heart. The first question I usually ask them is, did you people have sex? And when she tells me, yes, we had sex, I've always said, well, why pay for the cow when the milk is free? It's meant to be discovered in marriage. It's meant to be enjoyed. It's the highest form of intimacy in marriage. Now, when you give it to somebody that you are not married to, what you are saying is you don't have any value for yourself. You are reducing your value. And let me say, listen, there's nothing like sexual compatibility, for goodness sake. I don't know where that is coming from.
It's not really sexual compatibility. So the couples I have seen, and you're completely
Yeah.
right. Some of the couples I have dealt with that are still dating that had sex, if the girl finds out he's not right, she finds it hard to leave. If she finds
Yeah.
red flags, she's now stuck. But one of the
Yeah,
things
because of
that
emotional ties.
is emotional ties. But one of the things they say is that some people are not gifted or they don't know what to do in bed. That is it not better you find out while you are dating than when that before you get into marriage. But it puts both people in a strange place because you've used the blood of Jesus like you're using Omo and you keep washing. You're always in a state of washing.
So this is an issue I have with many young people that are dating today. By the way, it's very difficult to find young people that are dating today who are sexually pure. I'm telling you the gospel truth. Very, very, very difficult to find that. Now, immediately you introduce sex into a relationship. What happens is that your sense of objectivity, your sense of judgment is blurred.
100%.
You no longer have your senses intact to make objective judgment with regards to that relationship. So to make objective assessment or judgment of any relationship, you need to detach yourself emotionally in terms of when it has to do with sex, in order to make an objective assessment of that relationship.
That
so
is it.
Look, when God says don't do something, he's not saying don't do it because he wants to feel good about himself. No, he's saying don't do it because like every father because like every good father, he's trying to protect us from self-destruct. So when he says don't do this till you get married, he's trying to protect and preserve you. Ask anybody that is engaging in sexual immorality or sex before marriage. They will tell you, if they are honest, they will tell you, look, I also feel some sense of guilt after this thing. But their ego will mask that sense of guilt. And then they come to social media and they are making noise for some reason, maybe peer influence. They are trying to project that particular idea that, look, it is important for you to know this person, how this person performs in bed before you get married. No.
Yeah.
No. Look, let me even say this here. And I've said it several times in marriage class. I always say, one of the reasons why God says it's not good for you to have sex before marriage is that when you get married, learning the thing together is part of your memories. Part of the memories you create as a couple. You can tell stories about it and laugh together about how you started out the journey
how
of
you
marriage.
were fumbling.
Yes.
Fumbling together. So let's bring it down now. How can a couple that are physically attracted to each other and want to keep the word of God, what are the practical things they can do? Some keys. The question in the chat box is what are some of the keys to purity in dating? What are these keys that you can practical advice?
Number one, set your boundaries. Number one, you need to have your boundaries. I mean, you need to have your boundaries properly set. Look, thus far, we can't go beyond this point. If the young lady is living alone, I'm sorry, brother, you can't visit me because I'm living alone. Yeah. We can have our conversation anywhere. You can have your conversation in your church, your eatery, wherever you want to have the conversation. But please, I live alone. Don't come to my house. And for young, this is Nancy, this is let me shock you. Have you noticed that when people are dating now, before you know what's happening, the young lady is already spending the night in that brother's house
and cooking, and he's usually
it's because there are no boundaries. Yep. When you start spending the night in the house of the person you want to get married to, you've reduced your values. That guy will no longer take you serious. Don't go to his house and say, let me start washing his boxer shorts. For goodness, even in marriage, I mean, it's not your responsibility to wash your husband's clothes.
Ah, Chidi, you are where you are going there.
I'm shaking my head. I'm nodding my
Yes.
head. I mean, the man didn't marry. The man didn't marry. He didn't marry a house help. You get?
Yes,
my wife.
Yes.
My wife is here. Where's your mom? Okay, so my wife is here. She will come out now. I can count how many times she has washed my clothes, and we've been married for 12 years.
Wow.
I didn't marry a house help. So we need to get rid of this mentality that, look, it is the responsibility of the woman to wash your clothes, wash the bed sheet, fix the bed. No. I still wash my boxers every day. I do that every day. So don't go to the house of this your brother, start washing his stains. Let me cook for him to ensure that he has food to eat. Why are you doing that? Why are you doing that? So set the boundaries. Number two, you need to define your value systems from day one.
Yes.
You need to have that conversation from day one. Now, the problem, and I'm sorry to say the problem is usually with women. I mean, because they are desperate to get married, they don't even discuss the issue of values. They don't talk about their value system. Look, my value system is A, B, C, D, E, F, and if you don't measure up, I'm sorry, I will take a walk. Because marriage, for me, in this relationship is not a matter of life and death. And I hope we all know that it's not all of us that will get married. So you need to define your value system from day one.
Agreed. So we have another question that's, in fact, in line with this value system you just finished talking about. How do I know if my boyfriend is godly enough? Because he seems godly and he has a relationship with God, but he does some things that makes me wonder if he really is godly.
All right, beautiful question. Now, how do you know if the Bible says, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. Look, if a tree is right, the tree will produce godly fruits. So you cannot tell me, oh, you see, so I'm godly, but you see this area, please don't touch it. No, if you are godly, it will show in your speech, it will show in your thought process, it will show in how you relate with people, it will show in your actions, it will even show in the kind of movies you watch, it will show even in your driving, it will show even in just about every area of your life. Because when people look at, the whole idea is that when people look at you, all they see is Christ.
Thank you.
The Bible says we are the fragrance of Christ, diffusing the knowledge of God everywhere we go to. That's our job. If you look at 2 Corinthians chapter 2, verse 15, it clearly says that. So you cannot tell me that your boyfriend is godly, but he does ungodly things. You can't tell me your boyfriend is godly and he masturbates. My boyfriend is godly, but he visits brothels, prostitutes. My boyfriend is godly and he uses curse words. My boyfriend is godly, he womanizes. My boyfriend is godly, he watches pornography. It doesn't, salt, water and oil don't mix. If your boyfriend is godly, his actions will be godly. Granted, there will be mistakes. But when mistakes become a reoccurrence, they are no longer mistakes, they are decisions.
Exactly. Because who holds an orange and finds an apple inside?
Absolutely.
That is it. So if you are godly, inside, outside, and when it becomes mistakes, like you said, over time is a decision, but then it's also a lifestyle. That means you really are not living the life of Christ. That's it.
I mean, it's just like driving a car. When you enter your car to drive, you don't think, oh, how do I turn on the key? How do I accelerate the car? Where do I put on the brakes and all that? You do it subconsciously or consciously. It's a part of you. That's the same way it is, when it has to do with our lifestyle.
Okay. So there's actually a comment. They said that you're breaking this table, Sha. So let me give you another table to break. Let me give you, since that's your job, to be breaking tables up and down. And we said this is uncharted. It's no holds barred. Now, this is something I see a lot with some younger couples, Christian couples especially, where the girl starts saying that maybe he doesn't like me to hug brothers in church, that he doesn't like me to do this kind of this or that, and that she needs to submit to him. What are your thoughts around this? How much should a woman even submit to her boyfriend? How should that play out in terms of her decision making when they're still dating and they're not yet married? You look so
For goodness
perplexed.
sake. I am, because if my daughter is dating you and you're telling telling my daughter she needs to take permission from you before traveling or before visiting a friend, I'm going to drive to your house and ask you whether you're the one paying her school fee, who paid her way through school. I'm going to drive to your house and ask you whether there's a covenant between the both of you. There's no agreement. So why would the sister submit? Look, until dowry has exchanged hands, that sister, or even the brother, of course, is permitted to look elsewhere. That's the honest truth. It's permitted to go elsewhere because they've not paid. Dowry has not been paid. So submit for what? I'm even surprised. Like I always say, look, God gave us, like Bishop Oyedepo will say, that God gave us brain so that we'll give him rest. There are certain things you don't need to pray about. That is why you have a brain. So if you have brain, if you have common sense, you should know that this person is manipulating you. Is an abuser. Because what would happen, and people tend to, it's important at this juncture, it's important I state this. People misunderstand possessiveness to mean love. Possessiveness is not love. Even God had to let go of his one and only begotten son. Possessiveness is not, look, even genuine love knows when to let go. That's the truth. One of the qualities of love is to know even when to let go. So being possessive, telling someone you must submit to me now that you've agreed to marry me, now that we are dating, that is not love. That is foolishness. Oh, let me go and get his permission before I go on this visit. Why?
Yes. And then the person starts dictating your friends and says, I don't like this, your job. And then you kind of.
Yes. Even in marriage, for goodness sake, there's a level of, there's an extent to which you can tell your spouse, look, this person, I don't want this person coming to my house. There has to be a cogent reason for that, because you just can't see anybody and say, I don't want a relationship with this person. Your reasons have to be stated. If the person is a bad influence, you have to tell your spouse, this person, I think, is a bad influence. Look at what he or she said the other day. That is why I think he or she shouldn't be coming here, because he or she would negatively impact our marriage. So we need to be very careful about these things so that people don't end up in the hands of in abusive relationships, and then they now begin to say, oh, I didn't know we were good until we got married. No, you saw the red flags, but because your sense of judgment has been beclouded by emotions, you couldn't act on those red flags.
So back to the domestic violence issue, because we're seeing quite a lot of these topics come out in Christian marriages now, and we always say this. We say that they were the red flags. They were red flags you saw when you were dating, right? How would a woman, and this is specifically for the women now, how do you know that this man potentially could be abusive in marriage, especially when it comes to somebody that's so worded up? I loved that question about my boyfriend is godly, but he does things that are ungodly, and you addressed it so well. But what other red flags should a girl look for, to be able to know whether this man is right, he's not going to misuse me, or he's not going to suddenly start beating me. We all know the stories that we've heard over the past few weeks. What kind of things should she look out for?
Please permit me to tell a real life story, if you don't mind. Now, a friend of ours, I mean, when I ours, I by ours, I mean my wife and I, came to the house, brought a guy to the house, and my wife's friends, they do that a lot. When some of them that are yet to get married, they will always say, "I want to come and see Brother Chidi." They will come and they will say, "This person, they need me to help vet the person and all that." Now, one of them did that some years ago. I'll never forget this. We were watching Iron Man 3 in the house. And I was watching Iron Man. Yes, very good movie. And I was watching Iron Man with this guy, while my wife and our friend, they were talking. And then I saw how he was reacting to movie. So I just sent a WhatsApp message to this our friend. I said, she was in the room with my wife. I said, this relationship, pause it. This guy has temperamental issues, anger issues. Movie, I'm seeing how he's reacting in movie. Only God knows how he will react when two of you get married. And then this lady now says to me after, a day after that day, I say, that's why she likes me. Oh, yes, he has anger issues, but he's working on it. Some months later, I get a bottle of wine and an invitation card. And I said to my wife, Ekowa, I'm not a false prophet, but I know where this marriage will end. Today, as we speak, the marriage has come to an end. I'm not trying to say I told you so, but I saw it the day she brought that guy to the house, and I said to her, this guy has anger issues, walk away. This guy will beat her. In fact, there was one time the guy beat her, locked her up together with her daughter in a room. He took neighbors breaking down the house and calling police on the guy. So, like I said, the red flags are usually there. But some of our sisters or some of our ladies, they tend to turn a blind eye. So they use words like, he will change. For goodness sake, if you look at the book of 1 Corinthians chapter 7, I think, I presume, towards the end, Paul was talking about how to live with an unbelieving wife and a unbelieving spouse. And he said, look, how do you even know that the person that you are going to get married to is going to change? For goodness sake, it's not your responsibility to change someone.
Yeah.
He will change. He will change. Just give him time. Please leave him, let him change first before he comes back to talk about marriage. So these red flags are usually there. You need to check, like I said, check the way he talks to strangers. Check the way he even talks to his mom. Check the way he even relates with people, his neighbors. All these are pointers to. I have a friend. Let me use another example. I have a friend who she was dating with this guy, and one day she decides to, visit this fellow without telling him. And guess what? When she got there, tapped on the door, the guy opens the door, was wearing boxer shorts, and he had a cigarette, puffing cigarette, and he had a young lady in the room. That is not this guy he wanted to get married to. And that was how that relationship ended. And I'm talking about a believer. I'm not talking about an unbeliever. I'm talking about these guys in the choir of a church.
Ooh.
Yes. Real life story. So people are their best behaviors when they are dating or cutting. So you need to catch them in their unguarded moments, because in their unguarded moments, that's when the real person comes alive. When people are alone, that's when the real person comes alive. When they are alone, nobody seeing, nobody viewing, there's no camera anywhere. That is when the real Michael shows up. So you need to devise a means to catch this person in his unguarded moment. So if he lives outside, somebody may ask, okay, Brother Chidi, this person lives outside the country. Let me tell you another story. A daughter of mine. This time, a guy was beginning to like her, on Facebook, and they were discussing, talking, and they went as far. The guy lives in the UK, in London to be precise. And the guy says, I'm going to marry you. So, of course, she sees me as her elder brother. She calls me on the phone, tells me, I said, send me the guy's details. Let me check him out. She sends me the guy's details. I looked at his Facebook. There wasn't much on his Facebook, no picture, nothing much on the Facebook and all that. I checked his Twitter. He was quite active on Twitter. I checked his LinkedIn. There wasn't much on LinkedIn. I checked Instagram. There wasn't much on, just a few pictures of his. So I said, okay, let me push this a little further. So I called a friend of mine who lives in the UK. I give him the guy's details. I said, go and check him out. To cut a very long story short, this guy was married.
Oh my gosh. I didn't expect that.
He was married with 2 children. My friend went, visited his office, asked colleagues, said, oh, he's married with 2 kids. He went to his house, married with 2 kids. So I come to Facebook and I send him a message. I tell him, thief, you think we won't figure you out? If I see you around this lady again, I'm going to deal with you. You think I will find out that you have 2 kids? He immediately blocked me on Facebook. I went to Twitter, called him out on Twitter. He blocked me. And then, of course, before I got to Instagram, I found out that I've been blocked. And then I was also blocked on LinkedIn. So I quickly called my daughter. I said, this is the investigation. This is the findings.
This is what I say. When you are dating, you are an investigative reporter, journalist, crime scene.
Absolutely.
That's what you're supposed to be doing. You should not be touching and you're supposed to be investigating, trying to find out any red flags. If you see one, chase it all the way down. Check. Is it because of this? Is it because of that? This story is heartbreaking.
Yeah. Real life story. I mean, I'm talking about my daughter. I'm sure she's been watching this thing because I sent her a message before I came on here that we're going live now. She should join in. When people are dating, especially people of now, they are dating. That's when they go to Mr. Biggs. That's when they go to Chicken Republic. That's when they go to burn their time in cinemas. I mean, there's nothing wrong with all that. But when you are dating someone, you need to open your eyes. You need to read in between the lines. Because when somebody, you need to know, there are things people say. You need to know what is this person saying that he's not saying. Because, for example, if I get my wife offended and she's saying, I know there's a problem. Or when she says, Chidi, I know I've done something wrong and we need to investigate, we need to talk it out. So you need to know all that. You need to investigate all. Don't be foolish and say, he loves me. When people come to marriage club, for example, and I ask them, why do you want to get married to this person? The first question is, well, I love him. I know that there's a problem because love shouldn't be the first reason for you to want to get married to this person. It shouldn't be the first reason. It's important, but not the first reason.
Okay, so we have a question. The question is, I have a friend who cheated on her boyfriend and he doesn't trust her anymore. What should she do to make him trust her again?
Now, let me say this. Please tell your friend, and this is the honest truth. Men don't forgive cheating. They don't forgive infidelity. This is the truth. Even if the person is Pope John Paul, you get? Even if he says, I've forgiven you, the honest truth is down the line, even if that relationship eventually works out, down the line, they will use it to blackmail you. Even if that guy is cheating on the lady, even if the guy is cheating, is effectively, efficiently cheating on that lady, he will not forgive that young lady for cheating on him. This is the truth about men.
A comment. He said he wants to eat his cake and have it as well. The person actually said thief.
So this is the truth. Men don't forgive cheating. So if I were your friend, I will walk away. I walk away from the relationship. In fact, I will advise the person to walk away from that relationship. Truth.
No, come back to this thing you're saying, because this is table number 8. What do you mean he never is it even for a Christian person that is exhibiting the fruit of the Spirit, they never forgive? You can't get past it.
They will tell you, I'm forgiven. Yeah, they are forgiven. But down the line, they're going to use it to blackmail you. They're going to use it to scandalize you. They're going to use it to manipulate you. They're going to use it to twist you. And you certainly don't want to be in that kind of relationship. You don't want to be in a position where you are being scandalized.
Wow.
So this is men generally for you, because the foundation for every relationship, of course, is trust. That is why even a woman, if a woman's husband cheats or your boyfriend cheats, you suddenly your antennas are all high. So if you see him with not talking with another lady, unconsciously you begin to think they are planning, they are arranging a hangout. This is what happens.
So,
and I'm
so
saying
there's a comment
for
here.
men.
No, sorry, there's a comment here. There's a possibility he forgives if he believes she has changed, especially if he genuinely loves her. No, we're pushing back on this statement too. Eh?
Okay, so I see that comment is from my friend Gospel. So there's a possibility, yes, Gospel, I agree with you. There's a possibility he's forgiven. There's a possibility she has changed. But men, I'm saying the average man, this is the truth. I'm not trying to sound politically correct here. This is the truth. Men hardly forgive infidelity. They hardly forgive their women cheating on them. This is fact.
Okay, we have a follow-up to this story. She knows that it's a possibility that he will not forgive, I assume, but she's scared of losing him, and she feels that she will never find anyone like him again.
Oh, come on. You see, don't go into a marriage or a relationship out of sympathy.
No, she loves him now. It sounds like she really loves him, that he's
then
exactly
Nancy, how do we define love in this context? How do we define love in this context? Probably they exchange gifts, right? Probably they go out together. Now, you can do
another thing, he may understand her in a way that nobody else has. But the question then is, if the love was that strong, you have to address the reason why you cheated. Like, you have to really know what was the gap that you filled by stepping out of the relationship.
So let me tell another real life story, if you don't mind. Now, my wife knows this person. This person, she calls the person by sugar mommy. Husband cheated on her. You get? How did she know the husband cheated on her? The husband loves her. The husband flies her to anywhere, gives her car, does everything for her. But this guy still cheated on her. She caught him red-handed. In this case, would you say that the guy didn't love her, or he didn't love, or she didn't love the husband? The issues here, we need to attack this head on. The issue is, how do you even define love in this context? If I genuinely love Ekoma, for example, would I go out and begin to have relationship elsewhere? Why would I do? Is there something? What is missing? What am I missing that I'm looking for outside?
Yeah.
So we need to understand that fact. When we understand why did she cheat on her, then we can now begin to address the issue. Now, I'll give you another example. Did she cheat on him with an ex? Because what happens is, this is especially with women, they are married or they go into a relationship, and suddenly a blast from the past appears and begins to give them a call. Let's hang out now. Let's do that now. And then they begin to hang out. Before you know what's happening, they're already down there. Did she cheat on her boyfriend with an ex? If it's an ex, what is she doing with this ex? Why is she still in a relationship with the ex? Why is she still keeping in touch with the ex? So these are some of the ways we need to understand. When we understand, we can then put it in the right context and perspective. But like I said, and this is the honest truth, the average man hardly forgets that his wife or his girlfriend cheated on him. And if he has the opportunity to pay her back, he will do that.
Okay, so let's say there's infidelity. How do you then walk back to a place of trust? Because we are believers and we work by a different standard. How do you get back to that place of trust?
So now, I'm going to address this from the context that everybody listening to me is a believer. Now,
Correct.
first of all, you need to understand that forgiveness is your nature as a believer. It is expected of you. It is incumbent on you as a Christian to forgive anybody that has hurt you. Because if you don't forgive, you can actually go to hell. And the person you are thinking that you are holding daring grudge against will actually make heaven. So the first thing is you must forgive. Now, the next point is this. You must ask yourself, what even led you down this line? Why did you have to go down this line? Is it because of something I've done or something I'm not doing? Mm-hmm. If it is because of something I've done or something I'm not doing, then we address it headlong so that there won't be a repeat. Number 3, why did you go down this path? Is it because of a blast from the past? If it's because of a blast from the past, then you need to block that line. Let me give a real life example. 2 weeks ago, a friend of my wife, who is also very, very close to me, gives me a call and tells me, Chidi, she wants to discuss something with me. I said, what is this? She said, can I just imagine? She got off a call with an ex of hers, and the ex is telling her, let them hang out, let them go out on a lunch. I said, please give me that your ex. Give me his phone number. Let me call him and ask him whether he's okay. That I'm your elder brother. Let me ask him why he's calling. He's married and you are married. Let me call him and ask him why he wants to go out on a lunch date with you. So we need to know if it's a blast from the past, then you need to close that channel of communication so that there won't be no form of temptation. Now, another point is this, and this essentially happens in long distance relationship. We need to also discuss that also. A long distance relationship. Is it because probably I came under intense pressure and my spouse wasn't there? Now, we need to now discuss that also, because that borders on discipline, on self-control. And then we now need to begin to put measures in place to deal with such form of temptation. Then the fourth one is that, look, okay, what led me down this path? Am I exposing myself without boundaries to materials and people that are, and all that? If I'm exposing myself to, say, movies, materials, then I need to cut off from such persons. Because when I cut off from the flow, the thing that feeds that habit, then I'm free. So these are some of the issues. When you deal with them, then you can now begin to talk about restoring that marriage to its first love.
Okay. Thank you. So people are saying that this needs a part 2, and I hope we'll be able to invite you back. But one last question, because we're a bit over time. Okay. Is it all right to marry a non-Christian?
Water and oil cannot mix. That's my response to that. You marry within the family. You cannot marry a non-Christian. And look, let me tell you, if you're a believer, please look at the word I'm using. A believer, bought by the blood of Jesus Christ, sealed by the Holy Spirit. You don't have any business marrying a Jehovah's Witness person. You don't have any business marrying a celeb person. You don't have any business marrying a Muslim, a Buddhist, a Shintoist, an animist, or people practicing African traditional religion. You don't have any business with them. You marry within the family. And within the family, I mean, you can marry somebody from RCCG, you can marry somebody from Potter's House, you can marry somebody from Elevation, you marry within the family.
So what are some of the reasons, like scriptural reasons, why you should not marry a non-believer?
Now, number one reason is this. And please permit me to back up to when Abraham was looking for a wife for his son. Yeah. Remember, he sent Eliezer to where? Yeah. He said, he sent Eliezer to his family. Even though they were living, they had prospered, they had women of all sorts of shades and sizes around them. But he sent Eliezer to his house, to the family, to go and get a wife from, for his son, Isaac. Part of the reason is this. Two of you, there's a contention. There'll be a contention between two of you. contention of belief system, a contention of spirits, a contention of value system, a contention of generally there will be a contention. So can you imagine a believer getting married to a Muslim, and then on a Friday they tell you, a believer, let's go to a mosque? It doesn't add up. You get, or you getting married to a Jehovah's Witness person, or you getting married to a Church of Mormon person. Those, they don't add up, because they are not family, they are not part of us. So you need to understand this. But then you get, once there is a clash in belief system in the relationship, there will be friction, and once there's friction is introduced in that relationship, it's a question of time before the relationship goes under. I mean, I have an auntie. I'm glad Gospel is listening to this, because Gospel knows that my auntie very well. She's a Christian and she's married to a Muslim, and Gospel will tell you what happened to that marriage. Ekoba is here, she will also tell you what happened to that marriage. You get? So we need to be very, 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 very careful what we're trying to know. But he will change. He comes to church on a Sunday. Then we can manage it. You don't need all that trouble. You don't need all that trouble.
So thank you so much. Yeah, somebody's saying water and oil don't mix. This is so true. So thank you so much, Chidi Lemchi. It was a pleasure, and we're bringing you back for part 2. So for you all that we didn't get to some of your questions, I really apologize, but we're going to put Chidi's Facebook link in the video description, so you can reach out to him directly. I know him very well. He's very open. He loves helping people solve relationship problems. So please feel free to reach out to him. And Chidi, any final words before we close out the meeting? I think we have like 2-3 minutes before we close out.
Yeah, please, 1 minute, please. This guy is calling me. Who's calling me? Let me take. So my final word is this: don't be in a hurry to go into a relationship. Take your time, because marriage is a serious thing. It's a very serious thing, and you don't want to get into it unprepared. As a single person, what you should be doing now is to work on yourself, develop yourself, prepare yourself, so that by the time you're not going into marriage, you're not going in unprepared. You're going in prepared. You're going in ready to face it headlong. Don't be in a hurry because all your friends are getting married. Therefore, you now want to get married. Your family, everybody's putting you under pressure. You now want to get married because of that. Don't do that. Get married out of conviction. Get married because you are ready. Don't get married because every person around you is getting married. That's not how it works. You need to get married. You need to be ready. I usually tell people, before in the university, before I got married, I had read every woman. Before I got married, I had read what to expect while expecting. I read it in my 20s. I read every woman in my 20s. My copy is still there in my bookshelf. I read what to expect when you expect in my 20s also. So I prepared myself before marriage. Now, you need to use your singlehood to prepare yourself. Finally, singlehood also is not a curse. Because what we've done in church is when we see single people, we're asking them, when are you getting married? When are you getting married? And we are consciously putting these young people under pressure. Unconsciously putting them under pressure. Marriage is not by force. And not every one of us must or should we get married. That's the honest truth. You can live a fulfilled life as a single, and there are countless testimonies or examples to that effect. So it's important for you to understand it. And for those of us that are married, there may be 1 or 2 married people that are also listening, that are listening in. It doesn't matter how far in disaster your marriage has gone, it can be restored. It can be recovered. Change can still occur in that marriage. Don't give up hope. Change is on its way. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank
God
you
bless
so
everyone for
much.
listening in.
Thank you so much. It was an amazing, amazing session. We're getting some comments that are saying they thoroughly enjoyed the time. So thank you everybody for joining. We're going to put in the description, if you visit the link again, we're going to put Chidi Lemchi's contact details. You can reach out to him. Please remember the magazine Unattached, our monthly magazine for May, drops tomorrow. So follow us on social media so you can get your copy. I want to thank everybody for joining. God bless you and have an amazing rest of the weekend. Thank you so much.